All right, today we're going to be installing ClearVU on this Ford Ranger. This is the Raptor Edition, but this installation instruction should be the same for every Ranger. Okay, we're going to remove this and set it aside. So in order to remove the camera housing, the first step is to pry off the emblem part. Just this silver ring around the outside, not this black part. The black part is held in with screws. The emblem itself is held in with tabs. So use a plastic pry tool. And so now you can see. So now that you've remove the emblem by prying it off, you'll see now there's this sort of sticky foam. So 1, 2, so there's 3, and then another one there. Now that you've peeled back that foam, you can have access to the 4 7mm screws. So now you should be able to remove this entire housing and have access to the wires for the camera. So we're going to disconnect that, push down on that tab and pull. Okay. So the next step is going to be to separate this white plastic part from the black one. And you see there's 6 of these tabs here. You gotta pry the black tab one way and then take it apart. And then after we do that, we're gonna trim this corner out here where I have the Sharpie mark. We're gonna trim that corner out of that white piece of plastic. So now you got those 2 pieces separate. So now we're going to trim this corner off of this white piece of plastic. All right, so you can then put these back together and snap together all the remaining 5 white and black tabs. Thing too, this black tab here, you don't need that, it's in the way. If you have a set of them, these are the best tool for that. The last thing we're going to do, the last piece of trimming, is going to be this little ear that is on the camera bracket. So now it should look like this. You've trimmed off this corner of the plastic white part. You've trimmed off the black tab that was underneath it. And you've trimmed off the little plastic ear that was on the camera bracket. So now that it looks like this, you can use your template to drill the hole for the spray nozzle. Okay, so you're going to take your template, take this off here. I already have a pilot hole drilled, but it's going to fit right over the camera and it'll kind of snap in there actually underneath the bottom lip of the camera lens. And then you're going to want to rotate it so that the bottom here is parallel with the bottom curve of the camera. So you don't want it like that or like that. You want it perfectly in the middle. One thing you can do is you can take blue masking tape, or any color for that matter, then take your template, put it on there, line it up so it's parallel. and then take a Sharpie and right where that circle is, make a mark. And now it's going to show up on the blue masking tape a lot better than it would show up on the black plastic. Another pro tip is to get one of these. So this is a center punch, and basically once you have your mark, you're going to push down, and the way these work, you push down and they snap and they make a little indent. There's plenty of other ways you could do that, but it just keeps the drill from walking when you mark that, or when you drill that hole. So that being said, we're going to move on to drilling the hole. Very important, we recommend using a step drill. Step drills come in all different sizes. All of these came from Harbor Freight. This middle one is more expensive. It's a harder material. These are very common, but this here is recommended. The reason being, it has larger steps. The final size is 5/16. The reason for using this as opposed to a standard twist drill is when you drill through this plastic with the twist drill, it's going to want to thread in and it just isn't as clean. These are made to drill plastic like this. So that being said, I'm going to go ahead and open this hole up to 5/16. Okay, so the next step is going to be to take the spray nozzle that you have here, and you're going to put the O-ring on it. So your kit may or may not have came with 2 O-rings. There's a large and a small. For this installation, we're going to use a small O-ring. After you have that O-ring on there, we can install the spray nozzle. Next step, install the nut. So around the back of here. So for this particular installation, there's no room to spin the nut on the back of here. So what we're going to do is use a 1/2-inch wrench to hold the nut in place, and we're going to spin the spray nozzle. So you can spin it by hand for a bit until it gets too tight, and then you can use pliers. There you go. So actually, it doesn't need to be super tight. You just want to make sure that the O-ring is seated and there's no space between the spray nozzle, the O-ring, and this plastic surface. So you see how that line on the sprayer is pointing directly at the middle of the camera lens. Now that you've done this, we're going to take a small section of hose, about 6 to 8 inches, and cut it and install it to the spray nozzle. So we have our hose here. I'm going to cut that much. Install it onto the spray nozzle like that, and then we're going to install our check valve onto this end right here. So you'll notice on your check valve it's going to have an arrow. It's hard to see here, but that arrow points in the direction of fluid flow, so it's going to point towards the spray nozzle. Just go ahead and install that. And now that you're this far, you can install this back in the tailgate. And install those 4 7mm screws back in here. All right, now you can take your emblem and put it back on the right way. So now you'll see once we run the hose from the front of the truck back here, we'll have access to hook it up to the check valve. So when routing the hose, you're going to want to find what side your reservoir is on. For the Ranger, it's on the right, and then that'll tell you where the OEM hose is. So right here is the OEM wiper fluid hose. This is where we're going to cut and tap into for the ClearVU system. So the next step is going to be to route the hose, and to do this we're going to use a fish tape and push it through the frame from the front to the back, and then once we get this to the back of the frame of the truck, we're going to tape the hose to it and pull it through all the way to the front. So turn your wheel all the way to the left and look for an opening down here. Now I'm going to go to the front of the vehicle and pull the fish tape, pulling the hose through the frame. So the next step is going to be to cut your OEM wiper fluid line right here, install the T-fitting. Alright, so we're then going to cut just a couple inches off of this hose. And our shutoff valve is going to attach to it. We're then going to attach this part of the hose to the T-fitting here, like so. And then take your camera washer hose and hook it up to the shutoff valve. So now if you don't want the system to be operational in the future, all you have to do is shut off valve. The last step is going to be to run this hose up to this hole right here, right next to where the wires go, and into the tailgate, and hook this hose up to the check valve. And there you have it. So now you can put this cover back on. So this concludes the installation instruction for ClearVU on the Ford Ranger. If you have any questions, reach out to us on our website. From here, you can go about testing this. If you have to make any fine adjustments, just use pliers to adjust the spray nozzle. And keep in mind, it is going to take a while for the hose to fill up from the front of the truck to the back. However, if it doesn't work after several minutes of wiper fluid spraying, just check. First, make sure your shutoff valve is open in the front, and make sure you don't have any kinks in the wiper fluid line. That's it. Thanks for watching.